Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Karan Rose.
Thank you to everybody tuning in to another episode of the Digipreneur FM podcast. And as usual, it is your boy, Mr. Rose. DJ, you know what to do. You know you gotta fade us all the way out so we can talk to the people. It is Monday, July 21st, 2025, and this is episode number 194. Hooray, hurrah. How are you good, ladies and gentlemen of the Digipreneur FM family, doing this week? Listen, we're getting back on our consistency horse with the podcast. And you know what? A big part of it is I'm in this space right now where I'm experimenting. Like, I'm in my experimenting phase and I'm in my creative bag where I'm trying a lot of different things. And I won't get into everything that I'm trying right now because I'm testing things out. I'm not going to come on here and start to BS you. I'm trying things out and I'm seeing what's working, what's not working, and watching my results. But what I probably will do is I'll probably have a separate episode on things that I'm testing out, because maybe, you know what? F it. Maybe I might plant a seed and it might help you out. Who knows, right? So I'll do an episode of what I'm testing out. Usually I don't like to talk about things that I'm, in the middle of doing, because people look to you for answers. But in order to get answers, you got to try things out. You got to do things yourself first, right? But I think, we're at a day and age where it's good to see people upskilling in the process, and in the process where things are messy and you're just trying things out. Man, I'm just trying a lot of things out, and it's giving me some ideas. And I think as I'm talking to you, and this is one of the things I love about podcasting, whilst you're talking things through, like you're talking out ideas, you start to reflect and just more things come up. So like I was just saying that, typically I would, when I'm in the middle of doing something, trying things out, like I won't start to speak about it until I get results and I can make it repeatable and then talk about what I did and then show you, hey, this is what I did, and I could walk you through it, right? But I'm now thinking, if I do an episode on just kind of talking about the things that I'm trying out, rather than just talking about it, maybe I do a free, I don't want to say it called a webinar, but like maybe I just set up a Zoom link and people come in, and whilst I'm trying things out, like you get to watch, rather than just have an episode and talking about it. And that would be even more engaging, and that would be very different, because you don't get to see a lot of your quote unquote thought leaders in their process, right? And then in general, you don't really get to see people just trying things out. If you don't have the knowledge or expertise, you're not gonna think to do some of the things in particular areas, right? Like you're not gonna think about, using the tools that I use out of nowhere, right? But if I have a free session where I just say, hey, I'm trying out a new content workflow, come join me. It's free. Come join me. I'm trying out a content workflow. You're getting to see me try things out, and I get to talk to and I get to engage. That's an idea. That's a very good idea. And then it takes the pressure off of having to plan out content, because a big part of today's episode is about content marketing, right? So this is perfect. We didn't even get into the episode. Again, this is why I love podcasting, because you just talk things out. You just talk things out and you get ideas. But I think that would actually be pretty dope. And again, it's different. You don't ever get to see that, right? And my experimenting, I learn a lot through my experimenting, right? I learn a lot. Like every time I'm using tools and tools are because the thing is too, right? Why I'm always experimenting is all the tools I use, they're always upgrading. So they're always adding a new feature, always adding something. And then you just find, the tools are evolving, the platforms are evolving, what people's appetites are feeling is evolving. So it just allows you to be creative and just try a lot of different things out. And right now, I'm in a space where I'm trying out some crazy things. I'm saying all that to say, let me land the plane. When I was hanging out with oh God, I was hanging out with my boy from Bali, an American from Bali, and when he drinks, when he has a couple of drinks, he starts to veer off. And I had heard Kijan Haynes on from Trinidad on CNC3 on Twitter. He had made a whole joke about landing the plane. Like he wish he could talk to these politicians and tell them to just land the plane, right? So, anyways, my boy from Bali's talking, and because he's veering off, that was the first time I hit the hey clap land the plane. So let me land the plane. What was my point again? That's what happens when you talk too much. I'm joking. All of this to say, if I do, because I learned so much, yeah, now I got it back. Because I experiment so much and because I learn so much through my experiments and because of all the maturation of all of these different things, I'm not always in a creative space to try things out, but right now I'm in that creative space to try things out. And I think just bringing people in and just watching me try things out, like if I'm learning, then it's going to be valuable to you. Because if it's valuable to me, it's valuable to you. Because I would end up turning around and turning it into content or turning it into a workshop or training or be a part, whatever. You know what I mean? So I think I'll definitely do that. There's a lot of ideas that I want to do, but I'm just in a space where I'm in a cocoon and I'm just kind of chilling and I'm just figuring things out, trying things out, living life, enjoying life, and things are good. Things are good right now. Anyways, let's get on to today's show. But you know how we do? We always have a little pre-ramble. Right? We always have a little convo before the you always have a little appetizer before the entree, right? But listen, man. Today's episode, um, today's episode's a good one. And it's a good one because it's a very important one, right? And it's a real conversation because it's a real massive problem, and it's getting worse. It's getting tremendously worse in the Caribbean, and I don't see a way. I don't see a way how it's going to get better anytime soon. Like major changes need to be happening, right? So it's not about content strategy in a theoretical sense, but and it's not about this conversation is not about social media trends and viral hacks, but we're going to be talking about the content cost crisis. Right now, one of the biggest problems that we are facing is we need more content, but to create the content, it's costly, and there's a big mismatch, right? Because whether you are a small business owner or a marketing lead or a creative trying to make your living, you have absolutely felt it because we're talking about the conversations, every day online. You're feeling the pressure to create more content than ever before because the platforms want more content than ever before, and it's because we, the people, want more content than ever before. Because guess what? If AI is taking all of our jobs, what are we going to have more of? We're going to have more time to ourselves, right? Again, people are consuming more content. So the cost to create the content are mounting up dramatically, right? And then there's this sinking feeling that the current approach just isn't working. Everybody is feeling that. Everybody is feeling it, right? The businesses are feeling it because the businesses say it every single day. I don't know a marketing executive in the Caribbean that is happy with, and I'm talking corporate, that's happy with their situation. They're not happy with the agencies and the people they're working with. The agencies aren't happy with the clients they're working with. again, there's a big divide, and we got to talk about it, right? And again, this is the reality. We need more content than ever before, as I said. But the old ways, and here's the problem, the old ways of creating content are, one, they're way too slow, and two, they're way too expensive, and it's no longer effective. Let me say this again for everyone still trying to run 2025 marketing with a 2010 model. The content world has evolved, but our methods and our budgets have not. Now, here's the kicker. This isn't just a vibe. We also have hard data to back it all up, right? Because we got to come with some stats. So check this out, right? According to Binder's 2024 State of Content Marketing Report, 69% of marketers say that traditional content production models are no longer sustainable. Let me read that again to you. 2024 State of Content Marketing Report by Binders states that in their research, 69% of marketers say that traditional content production models are no longer sustainable. Think about what that means. That means almost 7 out of 10 marketers globally are admitting that the current way they create content cannot continue. And if we're honest, what about here in the Caribbean? We're not even operating on the traditional model that the rest of the world is trying to escape. We are still paying TV production prices to create 60-second social media ads, which is crazy. We're still trying to use ad agencies to do daily digital content. Again, I have no issues with using ad agencies, but we're not using them. They were never meant to create daily content for us, at least at the scale that content is needed today, right? So we're using agencies to create daily content, and the budgets they're skyrocket. They've skyrocketed, right? And we're gonna get into that. And then we're also relying on freelancers for one-offs while trying to build daily relevance, right? Which is another problem. Or worse, we do nothing at all because the costs are too high. Or this is especially in the Caribbean, we feel that everybody knows us, so we don't have to do anything. Like we don't have to have a social media platform. Funny enough, I was doing a case study a couple days ago, and I was doing it on Roti, and I was trying to get a social media comparison breakdown going to get some audience data, and you wouldn't believe this, but there's 1 million roti shops in Trinidad, and I only was able to get 2 roti shops with social media platforms that, one, actually have social media platforms, and 2 are updated. Like I got a couple platforms, but they haven't posted anything for a year. Madness, right? Anyways, back to regular scheduled program. This entire situation is a lose-lose for every single person involved. And again, businesses are feeling like they're spending more than ever and getting less and less in return. Let's be real, we're not getting back the money that's being spent, right? And the flip side to that is creatives are overworked, undervalued, and squeezed to hit timelines that don't match the nature of their craft. It's the same thing on marketers. Marketing, a lot of it is creative work too, right? Marketers are stuck trying to balance quality with quantity and end up producing generic content that doesn't perform. It checks a box, great, but your content sucks, and that's why it does not get the ROI. It doesn't bring in any return. And that's the real tension we're going to be unpacking throughout this entire episode. We're going to be diving in deep today, right? This is no longer just a creative problem. It is an economic problem. This is no longer just a platform question. It is a business model question. And we are in a moment of a massive transition. Marketing is changing. Content expectations have changed and are changing. The budgets are shrinking, well, because we're not bringing in we're not showing the ROI, right? We might be bringing in money, but if we're not updating our infrastructure to showcase whatever attribution we can. And then again, if you can't show the money, the budgets are going to continue to shrink. And again, because the budgets are shrinking and because we know that we have to be digital and we know we have to do things at scale, the pressure is rising naturally. And the question for all of us is, how do we adapt? How do we build a content ecosystem that works creatively and economically in 2025 and beyond? And that is where I want to carry today's conversation, from the realities of scaling content to what's broken in our current models, to how I'm a solopreneur, how I, as a solopreneur, have been able to build a sustainable and scalable content engine, and what businesses, creatives, and marketers need to start doing right now to avoid being left behind. Because I'm telling you, we are already behind, but because of the speed of new tools and technology coming out, the rest of the world is light years ahead, and we're still debating the basics. Do I need a website? We're still debating these things, but we gotta talk about how we got here so that we can really paint the picture. So let's rewind, right? Because in order to fix the content crisis, we have to understand how we got here. And this didn't happen overnight. What we are experiencing now is a compounding effect of years and years and years of misalignment. A misalignment between how content is made, how content is consumed, and how business is run. So let's break it all down, right? Now, a lot of businesses, especially in the Caribbean, are still approaching marketing like they're working with Don Draper from Mad Men, right? They still believe that marketing equals advertising. They still think that a nice glossy campaign, a billboard, an ad on TV or radio, and a few social media posts, they think that's enough. But we know the truth. Marketing today is a daily discipline, and it's no longer a quarterly campaign. Let me say that again. Marketing today is a daily discipline. It is no longer a quarterly campaign. Meaning, when all these people are planning campaigns, you're not adaptable to what is happening right now. And because we need the amount of content on a daily basis, you really should be focusing on kind of like a 1 month content plan. And again, you're just working with the 1 month content plan and working with it. But anyways, we're going to get into all of that, right? Daily marketing, and here's the biggest change, because daily marketing requires daily content, right? Which brings me to my next point. And let me be clear, I want to set the stage. Creatives aren't built for scale, but they're being asked to be. Let me say it again. Creatives are not built for scale, but they are being asked to be. And listen, I love all my creator friends. I'm a creator too. I'm a content creator too. You listen to the podcast, this is me creating content. I'm a content creator as well. So I respect creatives. We're just setting the stage, right? I know what it takes to write, shoot, edit, and publish across every single platform. So you consume me on both digital and traditional platforms, right? But you see, here's the thing. The traditional photographer or videographer was never designed to produce daily content for a business. Their work is high skill, high effort, and high cost, as it should be. Saying that plain talk, bad manners. Photographers and videographers, their skill set, it's a high effort skill. It's a high cost skill. It is time consuming. They need to be paid, as they should be, right? But here's the thing. If you're trying to grow a business in 2025 and beyond, where attention is the currency, then waiting 2 weeks for a video edit or spending $1,000 on a brand shoot or video or anything on a daily basis is just not sustainable. And this is reflected in the data, because from the Content Marketing Institute, their B2B benchmark report in 2024, it says that 91% of marketers say they are under pressure to create more content with fewer resources. And that pressure, it's the tension point between business realities and creative expectations. Businesses have no internal infrastructure for content. And it's showing and it's exposing us, right? Let's call it what it is. Most businesses are not set up to create content in-house, even though that's exactly what they need to be doing today in order to survive, at least in the digital space. They don't have people on the team willing to be on camera, and we know that. We know there's a lot. Man, you know that. A lot of times your company comes around, they might ask you to be on camera. You're like, man, move from here with that, right? So you do have people that are not willing to be on camera, right? Especially a lot of the subject matter experts, the people that you really need to have be on camera. We're not talking about like the little jokey, kicksy videos. We're talking about like the real stuff with depth, right? You're in business to solve a problem. People want content that can alleviate a lot of the things that they need to be aware of, right? So they need content with depth, and a lot of those people are not willing to get on camera. We also need to have updated social media policies with all of the businesses, right? We need to have a system for turning internal knowledge into consistent output. That's the only way businesses are going to survive, right? We're talking about like businesses that we're not talking about like food businesses. We're talking about businesses that are financial, investing, like you know what I mean? Businesses that need real content with some depth. Anyways, and we also need to have a clear understanding of modern marketing roles. So what happens? They outsource everything to agencies who are already spread thin, or they hire junior content creators, pay them next to nothing, but expect them to be strategists, editors, videographers, copywriters, and analysts all in one. That's why we keep on seeing all these misaligned jobs, right? And then they're shocked when the content doesn't convert. It's not a skills issue. It starts from the infrastructure. Well, businesses just aren't built the way they need to be built, right? And here's another problem. Too much corporate content today is optimized for views instead of value. What do I mean by that? We're seeing financial institutions, car dealerships, universities, tertiary education. We're seeing all of these places doing TikTok dancing, trying to do comedic skits. They're trying to build through comedy, right? They're trying to go viral. But guess what? Nobody's trusting a TikTok trend when they're about to take out a mortgage. You know what I'm telling you? When last did you make a major financial investment because you watched you know what? I just realized everybody in Trinidad's getting scammed right now. Oh, Lord. Okay, let me bring that back. Sorry, that was an intrusive thought. Let me bring that back. Let me start over. Whoop, 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 whoop. Right now, right thinking people are not trusting a 10-second or a trendy dancing video. That's not going to be the deciding factor for when or if they take out a loan or a mortgage or a mutual. That's not going to be the deciding factor. All right. The platforms have changed. The culture has changed. The expectations have changed. But the strategies we are still operating with are 2010-ish. And everybody is feeling it. The consumers are feeling it. The businesses are feeling it. The creatives are feeling it. The marketers are feeling it. Consumers don't want the flashy ads anymore. They want answers. Because remember, you're in business to solve a problem or help people achieve a desire. They want answers. They don't want the gimmicks. They want guidance. And they want it in the format that they prefer, whether it's video, audio, written, or visual. Too many of you are still stuck on this one type of content only. But at the end of the day, you're not your audience. And your audience, you're going to have an audience in every single format because everybody learns differently, right? Even when companies do produce content, they don't track or even analyze the content. And they're not set up to answer what's working and what's not. what's consuming, who's consuming what content, where and why, and what format is leading to the most conversions. So what do? They keep on guessing, they keep repeating the same cycles and keep missing opportunities to optimize. And this is why only 15% of marketers say they are truly confident in their content ROI. That is from Optimizely in their Content Matters 2024 report. 15% of marketers say they are truly confident in their ROI from their content. That is crazy. They're just at this point, marketers are just making content to check a box. If only 15% of marketers say they are truly confident in their content ROI, that's crazy. That's terrifying. Bottom line, the problem isn't just the cost of the content, it's the cost of doing it wrong. It's the creative expectations that don't align with business economics. It's the marketing teams built for yesterday's platforms and problems. It's the lack of infrastructure to support a scalable system. And it's the absence of self-awareness in both the creatives and the businesses to see the entire game has changed. But there's the good news. It can be fixed. The first step is what we're doing right now. We're talking honestly about it, right? The next step is we got to build smarter. So let's talk about what it looks like, starting with my own playbook, right? I'm a solopreneur. I'm a content factory. And if I do toot my own horn myself, toot, toot, I'm one of the baddest in the game when it comes to creating content at scale. When I look at, honestly though, toot my own horn, when I really look around at some of the, I'm not talking about like a regional aspect, when I look at some of the biggest content creators, most content creators have mastered digital, or you have, influential people that have mastered traditional. There's not a lot of people that create at scale for both digital and traditional. And understand that I'm in digital, I write, I blog, I podcast, I vlog, YouTube channel, right? All that video, social media content. Traditional, I write for the papers. I have a radio show. I'm on TV. I lecture. I do workshops, right? I do all of that. So there's not many people that are doing all of that and doing all of that at scale. And I look around and I pat myself on the back. So I'm saying that to say, if a solopreneur like me can do all of that, what does that say about anybody? What does that say about companies with budget? Right? What does that say? So, anyways, we've been diagnosing the problem. Let's talk solutions. Because yes, content is expensive. Yes, teams are overwhelmed. Let's acknowledge that. But yes, the old ways have died. They're not working, and we need to fix that. But here's what I know. It is absolutely possible to create meaningful, multi-format content at scale, even as a one-person team if you have the right system. So I want to walk you through what it looks like using my own business as the blueprint, right? So one thing I realized very early, I realized this back in 2016, right? When I just really got started with Droid Island, I was building my business. I learned early that people don't learn the same way. Some need to read to process, others need to watch, or they need to listen to the information of the content. And because I got that because I got that insight so early, like when I just started to create content, that insight shaped my entire approach to content. So I don't just create content, I am always building learning experiences across 3 formats. So I do written, so I do blogs, I do articles, I do newsletters, I write in the newspapers, right? I do audio, I do podcasts, I'm on radio with my own radio show. Shout out to Digital World on Freedom 106.5. Shameless plug every Friday, 12 to 3 p.m. I do video content. So I do YouTube, I do social media content, and I also do live videos, right? We live stream every time we're on radio. I'm on TV, we're live streaming there too. So, I do the video content as well. And this multi-format mindset is what turns one idea into an entire content flywheel. And here's the thing, when you build with learning styles in mind, you naturally create content at scale because you are repurposing with purpose. So, one of the things that people always ask me about is, you know, how do I do so much, right? And I want to break it down for you. So basically, I built a very lean and very smart tech stack that helps me move fast without compromising on my quality, right? So let me break it down. So the software I use, I pay $15 a month for Canva. That's the workhorse right there. Canva is Canva, right? Canva is the workhorse. And now that they have the AI with their Canva Create AI built in, like now that is handling a lot of social media graphics, blog posts. Like it's doing a lot of stuff, right? And again, this is why you have to invest and understand your tech stack. Canva is doing so much for me now, so much, right? So much. And again, it's further, and I'm highlighting that because we're gonna dive in deeper on that later as the show goes on, right? So I pay for Canva, I pay for ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT is another workhorse. Like the amount of things I do inside of ChatGPT is retarded now. I also have Google Gemini, but here's the thing: when I bought my Google Pixel 9 XL, Google was smart. With their new phones, they're giving you a free year of service of their Google Workspace, which includes, or their Google Business Space, or whatever the hell it's called, Workspace, Business Space. But you get 2 terabytes of data. You get a year free of Google Gemini and a whole bunch of other goodies when you're buying their phones now. I love it. I got that Google Pixel 9 XL, and I got the free for the year, all of Google Suite, and Google Gemini is a workhorse. I'm in Google Gemini every day because it does a lot for me. So again, tech stack, you gotta pay attention. You gotta invest, right? CapCut, I paid $20 a month for. That's my video editing that does all of my video editing. I was so glad CapCut has desktop version and it's become so amazing because I was fearful I'm gonna have to go back and learn Final Cut Pro and pay all the money for Final Cut, and oh man, listen, I love CapCut. Right? Anyways, I pay for Podbean, which is my podcast host. I pay that. That's $15 a month. I pay for Ecamm Live, $25 a month. That handles all of my video recordings when I'm doing my recordings from the computer, or if I have to do any live streams, Ecamm Live handles that, or any video recording for my online school, the Digipreneur Academy. I do everything through Ecamm Live. I use Audacity to record my podcast episodes. So right now, all of my audio-only podcasts I record through Audacity. And I also have Descript at $15 a month, and that handles all of my transcription service, my transcription, and it also does my video edit. It does video editing and audio editing as well, so I do use it for that as well. And because it transcribes, it allows me not to turn it into other types of content, right? So that's what I use Descript for. And then hardware, I use the Rodecaster Duo. This is my baby. This is my audio powerhouse, right? So all of my audio, my microphone is my XLR microphone is fed into my Rodecaster Duo, and it just does a whole lot of stuff, right? Rodecaster Duo. I also have the DJI Pocket 3 Creator Combo, so that handles all of my video content. Anything I pretty much shoot on nowadays, I'm shooting on my Pocket. The only time I really shoot on my phone is if I don't have my Pocket on me, or if I'm just too lazy, or whatever I'm talking about or need, I don't really need the extra quality, and I can just whip up my phone and shoot it with. But predominantly, I shoot everything on my DJI Pocket 3. And I also, for my microphone, what I'm speaking on right now is my Audio Technica ATR 2100X XLR microphone, right? I paid 150 US for that. I see it on Amazon right now for $100. I had paid $150. This is like 5 years old at this point, so I'm gonna probably upgrade my microphone to like one of the Shure SM7Bs. Maybe I think there's an upgrade to that now, but I'm gonna upgrade that by the end of the year. But my ATR is I love it still. Still gives me amazing quality. But as we get bigger, we invest, right? We invest in our quality and we buy it over time. So this mic is $100 right now, and it's even cheaper if you buy a used one. The DJI Pocket 3 is $700 US on Amazon, and my Rodecaster Duo is $500 US, right? So my total monthly tech stack is under $150 US a month for all of the services that I paid for. And again, the hardware was one-off purchases. And again, I buy these things over time. When you are starting out, you start with where you are at, right? When I started, I just started with my computer. I was using a Dell. Don't even know it was a secondhand computer. I was buying all of my tech secondhand when I started. So I was using like a Dell something um, used computer, and I had my phone to create all my content. And bit by bit over the years since I started in 2016, I was slowly upgrading my all of my equipment, right? And I stress this because it's not about having the fanciest tools. It's about knowing about what content you need to create and building the exact setup to support that, right? So I have some things I'm going to be investing in this year because I know what type of content I want to create. So I'm going to go scuba diving. I'm going to go invest in the DJI Pocket Action camera because I want to start to shoot content underwater, right? Again, just adds to the whole digital world, digipreneur, my travels, being a digital nomad. Again, I'm going to be bringing you all the places with me. And again, that's all work, but it's also me experimenting out loud and me trying new types of content to create, seeing what works, seeing what feels good. Most importantly, what feels good to me. I create what feels good to me, and I just, if it resonates with you, great. But I create because I create what feels good to me. So I want to create scuba diving content, and then I also want to invest in the Fujifilm X106. I want to get that camera because I want to start getting into photography, but I don't want to learn how to be a photographer. And the Fujifilm is a perfect compromise because it does so much amazing work inside of that camera that the end result is just, did a photographer shoot it, right? But again, I'm going to invest in that camera as well. So here's what it looks like in action. So let's say, like I'm doing right now, I record this podcast episode, right? This one piece of content, the podcast is going to get shown on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, YouTube. I'm going to transcribe it. It's going to turn into a blog, right? So this is going to be transcribed, put into a blog on my website. Because if I was recording it, now this is if I was recording it, right? If I was recording it, I don't have my video camera on right now. This would be a long form video, and it would also be cutting down into about 15 pieces of short form content because my episodes are about an hour in length. Anytime um, CapCut has a feature, and this is why you have to really learn your tools, right? I pay for CapCut because CapCut on desktop has a feature called long to short, and you could upload videos. You could upload videos up to 3 hours in length, and then it will upload it to their system. They'll use AI. It'll take like 15 to 20 minutes, but then it comes back and it gives you 15 pieces of content formatted for shorts, and it's captioned and everything there. And then you could edit it for minor tweaks, but it does everything for you. So whenever I record a video, like a long form video, I would dump it into CapCut. It would do the long to short. Now I get 15 automatically done pieces of content, video content, right? Then, because it's transcribed, this becomes a LinkedIn thread. So it could be a LinkedIn, I could do a LinkedIn text post, it could be a LinkedIn video, whatever the case is. But usually I would put a LinkedIn, I do like a LinkedIn text post, and that would be pulled from video content that I would have done. So I don't have to, again, really come up with new content. This could be graphic posts on Instagram. This could also be threads on IG threads. So one of the things I do a lot now of is all of my podcasts that get converted into blogs. I would also have a threads version, so it'd be like a 10 slide thread. So IG carousels used to have like a limit of 10. It's 20 slides now, but remember when it used to be 10? And then you'd have like the first thread, the first post would be the front cover, and then you'd have the body, and then at the very end the CTA. I essentially do that. I essentially will take an entire blog, have it converted into 10 slide threads, and the first thread would introduce the problem or the idea, and then the rest of it just builds up, and the very last thread is the call to action for the full blog or the full vlog or the full video that dives into it deeper. All right? And then because I already have the long form audio or video, because like I said, like right now this is just an audio only, right? But if the camera is on, it would be a long form video as well. But nonetheless, this podcast, when it gets transcribed, is also now going to be converted specifically into my format for my news articles, for my column inside of the Jamaica Observer and also the Trinidad and Tobago Newsday, right? So I don't have to rewrite content, but I can turn one piece of content, one long form piece of content, into multiple pieces of content. So, and then again, because it's leveraging the massive networks of the media houses like Jamaica Observer, like Trinidad and Tobago Newsday, it's going to show up in places like one. In order to show up in Apple News and Google News, you could only be getting they only pull the content from media houses, right? So now I get to show up in the two biggest news aggregators in the world, Apple News and Google News, with my content in the media houses, right? And I don't have to recreate it. I am just converting my podcasts and videos and turning it into articles, right? And then because I'm on TV and I'm also on radio, this now gets converted into my talking points for my TV segment. So after this episode, we're going to turn this into a blog. We're going to turn this into the news articles. We're going to turn this into the threads, right? But for the TV segment, I'm going to have it converted into, usually I'd convert it into 6 talking points because my segment's about 10 to 15 minutes depending on the day. So I have about 6 talking points, right? And I would have it converted to those 6 talking points. And then for very specific topics, what I would do is I would take the talking points and have it converted into questions, and I would send it to the host for them to ask me back the questions so that I can elaborate on those specific talking points. That way we both stay on point. Most times I let JW do whatever he wants to do, right? And I go in whatever direction he wants. But then there's some topics where I want him to go in a different direction, and because I know he might not have the knowledge to go where I need him to go, I'll send him and be like, hey, can you ask like these 2 questions for me, right? So I can get some of the things that I want to get out, but still allow him to lead the conversation and go wherever he wants to go as well, right? So again, I don't have to recreate that or stress about that. We're using the technology that's available to us, right? And then after I've done all that, because the TV show is on Tuesday, my radio show is on Friday. I have the first 30 minutes of my radio show, Digital World, is usually me deep diving into a topic. So I would now convert it into talking points that I know I would expand on for 30 minutes. So again, my podcast is my deep dives, right? My podcast is for my deep dives. It's a solo show. 1 hour is usually my limit and what I try to stick to. Sometimes we go over, but usually my episodes are about an hour. But my radio show is for the public. My podcast is all you guys and gals that listen to Digipreneur FM, you're in business, right? But when I'm on radio, this is mass media, this is the public, not everybody's in business. So the conversations are going to be the same topic, but it's going to be more palatable and more relatable to the mass audience. So you see how I'm doing all that? So it'll be the same topic, it'll be the same idea, but because of all the different formats, because of who is going to consume it and why they're going to consume it, it's tweaked every which way. And honestly, before AI, I was doing all of that myself. Like everything I was doing, I was doing on my own, right? Was it time consuming? Yes. And I learned how to get better. I learned how to get faster. And because I was doing it for so long on my own, all of these different things, radio, like I started radio. We didn't have ChatGPT like how ChatGPT is now to help me in radio or TV. No, the things I'm doing now, I only started doing within the last year and a half max, right? And even now, my process is changing again. Like I said, I'm in the middle of just my experimentation back. My creative process is changing dramatically again, right? But anyways, so we create these long form pieces of content, and I've learned over the years how to create multiple pieces of format and how to distribute to multiple platforms. And everything is rooted in my voice and lived experience. It doesn't matter what the thing is, right? You can use AI. The problem is that everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but the majority of people are using AI to generate the content versus the real content creators are using AI to have their content scaled. So AI is not generating anything for me. The most I'm really doing is I'll do deep research documents to get stats and data to beef up my ideas, right? But, and I'll share this with you. One of the things I'm experimenting with right now is how I craft my content. So my flow is changing. So hear me out. I'll wake up, I'll do some breakfast, listen to some podcasts, or watch TV or whatever whilst I eat breakfast or whatever I'm doing in the morning. And then right around 11-ish, 10, 11-ish, I'm going to go to the gym. So I'm going to get ready, I'm going to go to the gym. But whilst I'm going to the gym and I walk to the gym. The gym is about a 25-minute walk away from me. So I walk to the gym and I walk home every single day. And on that walk, I've realized I get some of my best ideas that I've had in a while, right? I'm in the right environment, the right inputs, I'm meeting the right people, having the right conversation. There's a lot of changes in me happening right now. So the inputs are very different. So I'm getting a lot of ideas whilst I'm walking to the gym, right? And whilst I'm walking, what I've done is as I told you in the last episode, I've created the Rose Council. So Nova, who is my creative director, right? Whilst I'm walking, I'm not even putting in ideas into notes anymore. I can't say the last time I've put an idea into note. Now, whilst I'm walking, I might write 2,000 words of an idea. I'll just do like a massive brain dump of ideas. And then what Nova does now is she has her personality. She knows what her role is. Anytime we're in an ideation stage, Nova will reflect back to me every single thing that I'm talking about. And then we start to soundboard the ideas. We start to go back and forth. We start to challenge ideas. We start to sharpen ideas. She'll give me, again, everything I'm talking about is my lived experiences, right? So we're not asking AI to generate anything. Every single thing that we do is me giving my ideas, my perspective. And now you're soundboarding with me and we're sharpening the idea. So after we've gotten all of our ideas out and we've sharpened the ideas and we soundboard, what I will then do, and again, this is what I'm experimenting on, what I will then do is I'll jump into Google Gemini. Google Gemini has the best deep researching functionality out right now, and it's also Google's tool. So it's connected directly to the data sources, right? So it scans a tremendous amount of data online because it's Google's tool, right? So I will then do whatever the topic is, whatever my brain dump is, right? I'm giving you my workflow. My brain dump, I'll give it to Nova. After we've sharpened the idea, I will then tell Nova, hey, I would like you to create a deep research prompt that encompasses our idea and the direction that I'm going in, because at the end of the day, all of my content has a direction that I am going in, right? So once she creates the prompt for the deep research for Gemini, I'll copy and paste the prompt, dump it into Gemini. Then Gemini will go do the deep research. Takes about 20, 30 minutes, however long it takes, depending on what we're doing, but it takes about 15 minutes. And by that time, I'm watching, because one of the things I love to do now is, whilst it's scanning all of the data, all of the sites, all the white papers, there's a window that says show thinking, and it's showing you all the things that it's going through. Then it's analyzing the information. It's telling you what it's going to do. It's telling you what it's learned. And I've learned so much just watching it sift through all the data. So I'll sit there and I'll go and I'll read through all of the thinking data and how it's going in, because then it's also giving me new ideas and things that I want to refine or add in and blah, 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 right? But again, part of the ideation. Once that is done, I export the PDF, I bring it back into ChatGPT, I give it to Nova, I say, hey, Nova, analyze the deep research document that we just got from Gemini. What are your thoughts? Give me a summary. Does it support what we are talking about? Does it support my direction, or does it go against my direction, right? And then it can now show me both sides of the equation, but then it's also going to have the actual statistics and data. Whatever data is out there, whatever statistics are out there, deep research is going to find it because somebody has published something somewhere, right? And it knows how to sift through credible sources of information. That's what makes it even more beautiful. So now we have this deep research document that has now been brought into the fold that has copious amounts of data and information and examples and stats and everything. So now we bring that into, we bring that into the kitchen, right? We bring that into the lab, and that becomes part of what we're cooking. So now we've ideated, we've soundboarded. Now we have the idea and the direction of what we want to do, what we want to create. Now we go do this deep research document. We bring that in. That now has a copious amounts of data, right? Now Nova is able to now pull data from that, right? And then we're not done, right? And again, I'm going to get better at this. I'm going to get faster. I'm still experimenting. It's taking me a long time to do this, right? This episode probably took me about 3 hours to put together. And the episode was only going to be about an hour and 15 minutes max. But 2 hours it took me to prepare the episode, right? So after we do the deep research document and we bring that in, the next part of the ideation process or the building of the content is I will then tell Nova, okay, now that we've hammered out the idea, we know exactly what we're doing, where we're going. Now we have this deep research document. I now want you to interview me. I want you to ask me 15 questions, right? I like to give us enough data to work with. I want you to ask me 15 questions about this topic. That way, we have my own personal experiences and my own knowledge added into the equation, added into the pot. Right now, we're cooking a brew, right? We're cooking a brew. We started off with the broth, which was the ideation. We went and got the deep research. That's all the seasonings and the ingredients. Now we got to put the meat inside, right? We gotta make that gumbo. Don't mind me. I'm just wilding. Gumbo. I'm hungry, actually. Oh my God, I have to eat. Yeah. Anyway, sorry about that. Intrusive thoughts again, right? Anyways, so I ask it to interview me, 15 questions. Ask it to me one by one. And now I'm brain dumping again, but specifically answering Nova's questions. That way we now have my knowledge and my experiences as well. So we've ideated, we know exactly where this conversation is going. We did the deep research, we have the data, we have the stats, we have everything that speaks about what we're talking about or everything that we need to know. And now we further add another layer to the pot. By now it's interviewing me to get my lived experiences and my knowledge. And then at the end of all of that, now we have everything we need to start creating all of the content we want. That took me about 2 hours to do. Is that a long time? Sure. Sure, it's a long time. Sure. Right, and it's gonna be more because after I'm shooting the episode right now, but then I have to edit the episode. Then I gotta get the podcast uploaded to all the different platforms. I gotta get it converted to other content formats and blah. And I'm gonna be here for another. It's gonna be here for another 3 hours, right? Getting everything that I have to do done. But guess what? The content now is going to be packed with so much depth and so much substance that it's going to hit a lot harder. It's going to hit a lot harder because of everything that we have given it, right? And now the experimenting for me is I just started doing this. I just everything I just listed out. I just started doing that last week. Like in like doing all of that, right? The ideation with Nova, I only started doing that about a month ago. If that long, I don't even think I've been doing it that long. Maybe actually no, this month. This month. I just started that this month. Where because before what I would do is my ideation would happen in notes. Like I just open up Google Keep and I'd make notes, right? The most I would have done is I'd make a bunch of notes and then screenshot it and then give it to ChatGPT and be like, hey, turn this into a structured article, but it would still be all of my stuff. And then I'd have to go through it and then edit it and da-da-da-da, right? Then I learned, oh, well, why don't I just take my podcast, transcribe it, and turn it into an article, right? And now, because I want my content to stand out in the world of shallow content, I want to go deep. Pause. Right? If you know what pause is, pause. In the world where everybody is still going shallow, I want to go deep. I want to be that place that is, we're not here for trends. We are here to be a resource. We are here to be a fixture in the community. We want to be a platform, or I want to be a platform where people are saving all of my content, people are bookmarking all of my content, people are referencing all of my content. That is where I am going, right? So I have no problem with my content being longer, right? Matter of fact, it's noticeable, right? There are people that comment all the time and say, "Yo, you're one of the only people that can get us to watch more than 2 minutes worth of anything." And then I go on my blogs in the back and I see the average read time of my blogs is like 3-4 minutes. All right, so I'm going deep, right? And this process I have right now is allowing me to go deep. So now, not every day is going to be a high output day. There are going to be some days where I'm doing interviews and some days I'm offline and some days I'm just not in the mood. But I have a rule and I stick to this rule and I stand by this rule. Do one thing for my brand. I do one thing for my brand every single day. That is my rule. And if I don't want to do anything else, what I've done is I've come up with what is my bare minimum. Like, what is my bare minimum thing that I would do that would check the box for doing one thing for your brand every day, right? And my go-to is a LinkedIn text post. LinkedIn text posts do massive numbers, and not just massive numbers, but they've been good to me. They give me a lot of ROI. There's a lot of impact that text posts do. Right? But that's my bare minimum. If I don't want to do nothing else that day, you're going to get a LinkedIn text post, right? And what I will do is I'll have an idea or a perspective and I'll just drop that on LinkedIn. It's almost like planting a seed. And guess what? Some of the most impactful content has come from those bare minimum posts. It could be from the direct post itself, or it did well and I turned it into something else, or I turned it into a video, or I turned it into a full-out article, or whatever the case is. The point is that consistency is what matters. It's not perfection, and it's absolutely not production. And you could thank TikTok for that, right? And I built this mindset, but here's the joke. It builds everything else now, because everything I've just shared didn't come from a course or a guru. It came because I've been in the trenches for so long, testing what works, scaling what sticks. And here's the thing. I call them my mentors, whilst I had the Gary Vaynerchuks, the Daniel Priestleys, the Chris Duckers, the Neil Patels, and I was consuming their content like crazy, the thing is that the majority of the stuff that they're talking about, a lot of the stuff doesn't work in the Caribbean. So I would have the ideas, and then I would have to go out and still figure out how to do it within the confines of the Caribbean, or more specifically the Trinidad and Tobago context. What is available to me? Can I do a lot of these things? And if I have to do it, how do I go about doing that? So I might have gotten ideas, seeds were planted, but again, everything that I specifically do, you guys come to me for the information, but I had nobody. Everything that I talk about, I did not have anybody to go and get the information from. I had to go and network, meet CEOs, meet people to learn about their product or services, whatever the case is, and then go talk about it after I integrated into my business, right? So I actually had to go out there and do everything. I had to do all the trial and error. And now I can teach from my lived experiences, right? I've been in the trenches and I've been testing what works. And like I said, I've been scaling what sticks because I am both the business owner and the creative. And that allows me to see the full picture. So I know how hard content is. Because look, I'm doing it right now, right? I know how hard content is. I know how expensive it can be. Trust and believe I ain't buy the Fujifilm X106 yet because me have a sieve. Me have a sieve. And you feel once I buy that and I start shooting my content, you feel people can come and tell me about, listen, I'm investing, you're going to invest too. Okay? If I'm investing in me, you're going to invest in me too. That is my rule. If I'm investing in me, you're going to invest in me too. All right? Know yourself. Anyways, I know how expensive it can be. I know how tempting it is to outsource it and forget it. But I also know that no one can tell your brand story like you. And if you want to grow in 2025, your content isn't optional. It's your visibility, it's your credibility, and it's your pipeline. And if done right, it is your unfair advantage. Some of y'all are complaining, why does this person get this? Why does this person get that? They've created an unfair advantage for themselves, but you could too, but you're too busy whining and complaining. Oh, God, boy. So anyway, so now that you've seen how I create content at scale, let's zoom out a bit because I'm not the only one solving this problem. So let's talk about what the data says and how companies around the world are adapting to the new content economy, right? And again, this is why I wanted to do the deep research document to pull in the data, to pull in the research, because there's a lot of companies that are doing, there's a lot of universities and people doing the research. Deep research as a Gemini tool gets to pull in from all these things, and now we get to bring it on in and make it contextual for our conversation. So what does the research tell us? It tells us that the global shift is happening in content economics. So if we take a step back, because this isn't just, like I said, my observation as a solopreneur, the data is confirming it across the board. According to Binder's 2024 State of Content Report, conducted by Forrester consulting firm, 69% of marketing leaders say traditional content production models are no longer sustainable. And that's not just about agencies or freelance creators. That's saying the entire system, the timelines, the budgets, the approvals, the workflows is breaking under the pressure. And here's why. Because the pressure is real. 91% of marketers report that they are being asked to do more with less. This is according to the Binder report, right? State of Content Marketing. 91% of marketers report they are being asked to do more with less. So let that sink in. More content, more formats, more platforms, less time, less people, less budget. This is the tension everyone is feeling, from solopreneurs to the Fortune 500 companies around the world. Now, this is where AI and automation is going to help it, because to deal with the pressure, 83% of marketers say they are now investing in AI and automation, according to that same report. Why? Because they are trying to scale without ballooning the costs or ballooning the team sizes. And that doesn't mean replacing creatives. It means rethinking where human creativity is best used and automating the rest. So things like transcriptions, video captioning, repurposing the formats, generating the first draft of content, brainstorming angles. These tools aren't a shortcut. They are scaffolding for scale, right? So I told you about my tech stack. I told you about how I go about creating content. This is allowing you to create at scale. This is the new content stack that you need. Globally, we're seeing a shift to modular content systems. Now, what does that even mean, right? Instead of creating one 60-second polished video, companies are creating one high-impact idea and then slicing it into blog posts, short-form video, podcast clips, an email series, and landing pages. So content or blog posts on your website, right? Or it could be standalone landing pages if you're driving traffic to a product, right? But according to the data, 74% of marketers say their content creation workflows are fragmented, leading to waste, missed opportunities, and duplicate work. This again, according to the same Binder report. Well, modular systems reduce that friction and increase the ROI. Okay, so we used to call it content repurposing, but here's the funny part. Now it's just called surviving. Now we just outside in the marketing world, just trying to survive with the amount of things we have to do. Because when you look at the most efficient content systems, they're not creating from scratch every single time. They are creating with one core asset and then spinning it into dozens of assets across formats. The same report from Binder, the State of Content Marketing for 2024, also said that 72% of marketing leaders say they reuse the content, or the reuse of content is essential to reducing the costs and increasing speed. Let me say it again. 72% of marketing leaders say the reuse of content is essential to reducing costs and increasing speed. Reusing content is not lazy, it is strategic. The problem is the majority of you cannot reuse or repurpose your content because you're only creating video content on trends. And there's no repurposing that. It's not evergreen. You can't repurpose it. So you're constantly having to create content like you're on a hamster wheel, like you are a content creator. And that's what's tying businesses up, right? So where does it all go wrong? The danger is when you are not adapting. You keep spending more and more money and getting less because the content is getting expensive. You hire expensive videographers for daily content. You pay for polished campaigns that do not convert. And you chase virality with trendy content that isn't aligned to your ideal customer. And in the end, you have no search presence, you have no brand recall, people don't even remember your name, and you have no sustainable funnel. And as the report points out, only 35% of marketers feel confident that their current content strategy is meeting their customer needs. That is terrifying. That's according to the same research paper. Content marketing, State of Content Marketing 2024 by Binder. Only 35% of marketers feel confident that their current content strategy is meeting customer needs. Now, take all of that global data and let's apply it to the Caribbean, where most businesses don't have websites. Social media is the primary marketing tool. Creatives still price for TV level production. And marketers are often operating from the 1990s playbook, and digital transformation hasn't reached the internal teams. So it's no wonder we're over budget, we're underperforming, and invisible in search and in AI. We're using expensive strategies for a content economy that demands scale, speed, and sustainability. And this is why I'm so passionate about teaching businesses to create lean in-house systems, to use the technology, use the ChatGPTs, the Canvas, and the CapCuts, but you have to learn how to use it. Build modular workflows, repurpose intentionally that content, and focus on business outcomes and not vanity metrics, because the game has changed and the data continues to prove it. We have to evolve. We have to evolve. And this is leading to the creative and the business reality clash. So this is part of the conversation that we don't like to have, because we would like to be delusional, but we need to have it. Because when we talk about the economics of content, we cannot ignore the growing disconnect between creatives and businesses. The traditional creative model, let's be real, photographers and videographers, they are artists. When I watch guys like Josh Brazan and Tariq and Devon, and Eddie, when I watch my guys work, listen, it's poetry in motion, it's Van Gogh to me. It's Van Gogh. Right, is art. Their craft takes time. It's precision. There is a passion, and they deserve to be compensated for that. I find all of my creative friends are underpaid. They don't get paid enough for the amazing work that they do. But here's the issue. Most are pricing their services based on project-based value and not on content marketing scale. So what does that even mean? A full day shoot is priced like a TV commercial. Editing turnaround takes days. Content delivery is limited to a few polished assets. And that's fine for one-off campaigns or for brand launches, but for daily content, for the speed for the speed of content creation the algorithm wants, for cross-platform publishing, that is completely unsustainable. Here's the reality from a business owner's lens. I'm not making a commercial. I need 30 to 90 pieces of content per month at a minimum. I need to shoot, edit, repurpose, and publish, and sometimes in real time. And I'm working with a limited budget, a lean team, or we all know there's one-man marketing shows in many of the marketing teams around the country. The need to generate leads and not just likes. So even if I want to hire an amazing videographer or creative director, the math is not mathing. And I'm not alone. Because when we look at the data, this is going back to the State of Content Marketing 2024, 67% of marketers say they are under pressure to cut production costs without sacrificing output. I want to say how, Sway, but it can be done. But it can absolutely be done. And we're going to get into that. But 67% of marketers say they are under pressure to cut production costs without sacrificing output. And 58% say they have had to abandon or delay creative projects due to resource constraints. And that means creatives aren't being hired, not because they aren't good, but because the system cannot afford them. And then there's this emotional friction. So what happens next? Creatives then go online. They take to online. They get on their platforms. They go online frustrated, saying companies, they don't want to pay them. They're the most difficult to work with. They don't get it. They don't understand. Businesses start to use things like the AI tools and start to create AI art. And then creatives jump online and then they start to accuse them of, in the Caribbean context, they're talking about how AI is taking away jobs from that was a job that could have been given to a model. That was a job that could have been given to this creative or this. Listen, if a business cannot afford it, they cannot afford it. That is why they're going to the tools, because they cannot afford to pay you. They're not going to pay you and bankrupt themselves in the process or take money from other areas that need the money, that need the resources, right? That then leads to agencies now delivering cookie cutter campaigns, and then nobody's happy with the ROI. And it's a cycle of tension and there's no transformation. And here's the heart of the issue. Creatives are not marketers. Marketers, for the most part in the Caribbean context, are limited to just social media specialists, if that. But we don't really have anybody that's really specializing in the spectrum of digital skill sets to be called a digital strategist. The vast majority of people are social media specialists, right? And most business owners are stuck in a Don Draper era mindset of ads and splashy visuals. So when it comes to daily effective multi-platform content marketing, no one is trained, no one is resourced, and no one is aligned. And this doesn't mean creatives are obsolete. Absolutely not. There's more money to make for you right now, right? But it means we need to redefine their role. Bring them in for brand identity work. Bring them in for when you need evergreen visual storytelling content. Hire them for campaigns that need a cinematic polish. Hire them to shoot your content for your website and things like that, right? But for day-to-day marketing content, you need internal systems, repeatable workflows, and a mindset of good enough at scale, right? That's my mindset. I want to create the best content I can create with what I have. And that's why I will upgrade my tools, whenever I can, to increase the quality, to get better quality over time. But again, good enough at scale, and again, consistency is what is going to get the job done, and people are forgiving to the quality of the content. Not audio content. Audio content, we got to hear you, right? But even if you're not shooting in friggin' in 4K, Every phone right now takes amazing video content, and content creators, smartphone video content is outperforming people who are spending thousands of dollars on, right? The data also says 72% of marketing leaders are shifting toward in-house content creation models, prioritizing speed, agility, and affordability. Now, that's what's not happening in the Caribbean. Right now, we're still outsourcing a lot of the work, and then we're also when we do try to hire internally, because we don't understand digital business, or we don't understand how marketing fits into the new, or because you're not upgrading your business, marketing is also misaligned, because you have to upgrade your business to account for how marketing drives business today, because that's going to mean you're going to need new skill sets, new infrastructure. Most of you have e-commerce opportunities that you're not touching because you don't have the skill sets internally to build. A lot, right? Anyways, as someone who is, again, I'm a content creator, I'm a consultant, and I'm a solopreneur, again, I see both sides of the equation. I will always love great visuals. Who doesn't? I go to Cinemax movies, right? Now, sit there for 3 hours and be watching some amazing content, right? So I appreciate good visuals. And I know how much effort goes into the work, but I also know I have to show up daily. I have to blog. I have to podcast. I have to video. I have to do a newsletter. I have to do radio. I have to do all these things. And I cannot pay studio prices for that. There'd be no way. I could never do that. So what did I do? I built the systems. I use all of my tools, from my phone to my laptop, whatever I had to get started. I use the AI tools. I transcribe, I repurpose, I reformat, and I do that at scale. And I save the budget for when I truly need to work with creatives for high level work. So again, this isn't a diss to creatives. I'm a creative too. This is just the reality of where we are at, and you have to respect both sides. If the businesses can't afford you, they can't afford you. But we also need to shift how or what is the value that we're going to be bringing to people, right? And this is where we shift from here's the problem to here's how I solved it. Because yes, the economics of content creation are broken for most businesses, but there is a way forward. And I know that because I live it. I started with a blog, right? And when I started my journey with Droid Island, I was just blogging. I do like 1 to 2 blog posts per day religiously. And again, I was fortunate enough where, I was put on to Gary Vaynerchuk when I got started early. And I remember one of the first ideas that Gary was drumming into our head was, you got to be creating 100 pieces of content per day. Obviously, that number is out of this world insane. But you know what? It stuck with me. And I started to ask myself, let's just say let's play this game, Gary. All right, let's play this game. I'll play this game with you. I'll bite. If I did have to create 100 pieces of content, how would I go about doing that? Because I watch Gary and I see how him and his team create content at scale, right? So I'm seeing the infrastructure at scale. But the thing is, rather than saying I can't do that, Gary has a team, I went the complete opposite. I said, I don't have a team, I don't have a budget, but if I wanted to do all the things Gary Vaynerchuk is doing, how would I go about doing that? And because I asked myself that question and I started to challenge myself, okay, bet Gary, how am I going to create 100 pieces of content? I started to learn all of the ways to create content. And if I want to create 100 pieces of content, I could. Today, with all the AI tool, with all the tools, not just ChatGPT, but with all the tools that we have at our disposal today, I could create 100 pieces of content easily, because I know how, and I have the tools to do it. That's the difference. When Gary Vee said it in 2016, you needed a team. When Gary Vee said you have to create 100 pieces of content, you needed a team. Today, you need tools. That's it. That's the difference. So I can easily create 100. I just told you I could take a video and give it to CapCut, and in 15 minutes, it has 15 to 20 pieces of video content edited and optimized for short. That's just, so me recording one video, give it to CapCut, now we have 16 pieces of content, and that, come on. You see what I'm saying? Now you turn that into blog posts, You could turn it into audio. Like there's so many ways that we can turn this into content. I absolutely could create 100 pieces of content, and I could do that in one day now. Today, not 2016. Again, 2016, you needed a team. Today, you need tools, right? You need tools, you need strategies, and you need to hone your skill sets to be able to work efficiently. Again, I'm in my experimenting phase. I'm going to get this thing down to a faster thing, right? I'm never going to skimp. Like when I say faster, my podcast always gonna be an hour. I'm an hour and 20 minutes right now, but I'm almost done. But when my podcasts are long form, but the process to turn it into content, to edit, to distribute, I'm gonna get faster at that as I continue to go, right? So when I started to ask myself that question, that just changed everything for me. And I mean everything, because YouTube needs videos, Google needs blogs, ChatGPT is trained on the data from the search engine, so it uses blog content as your responses. Podcast feed into Spotify and Apple. LinkedIn wants content. Audiograms work across almost any platform. You have platforms like Google Web Stories and that distribute content over to Google Discover. Then you have email newsletters that has a direct relationship with the people. So you learn how to create content that fits into every single nook and cranny in the digital world. And that's what I did, because I could not afford to outsource. So I had to build a system. I had to get the right tools. I had to build the right tech stack. I got the Canvas, thank God for ChatGPT today, because that wasn't there. But I got Canva. I was using Headliner for my audiograms and whatnot. And I had my phone, my computer. I had a DSLR. I was using the Sony A6100. I bought that back in 2020. I just sold it last week because I'm going to be upgrading my camera equipment. But yeah, so I got the right tech stack. And then that content flow, that is what's allowed me to create at scale, right? That is what's allowed me to create at scale. And if you're not process driven, you're going to struggle. You also need to learn. This is one thing that people struggle with. They struggle with having the right compromises. So for me, I know that I have to compromise. I don't have the budget to hire my best friends, right? I don't have the budget, right? So I have to figure out, how am I going to get the best quality? How can I do this at scale? And what am I willing to compromise on? Because I have to compromise. So what am I willing to compromise on? So rather than hiring a videographer, right? People pitch to me all the time, hey, I can edit your videos. Yeah, but at cost. I can't afford that. So I use CapCut, and I learn, and I'm getting better and better and better at editing videos in CapCut, right? And then now with new features, it's allowing you to create content even faster, right? So if I can create high quality video even faster, I've invested in my DJI Pocket 3 so I can get better quality footage out the gate, and I can do more type of content. So that means I can edit less inside of CapCut. Again, a compromise, right? Using free versions of tools for as long as possible. So I've never paid for a Headliner, but Headliner is how I was creating all of my audiograms. That's just an example, right? Shoot all of your content with your phone until you can afford a DSLR, if you even want to afford one, right? And then now you live in the age of AI tools. So use the AI tools to repurpose what you have already created. And that is how you're going to scale without burning out or going broke. Now, check this out. 83% of marketers are investing in AI and automation to meet content demands. And they're doing it for one reason. 91% of marketers are under pressure to do more with less. I'm living proof that it can be done, but it starts with understanding your bare minimum viable content strategy. So for me, like I said, no day goes by without me doing at least one thing for my brand. And for that is just going to be a text-based post, right? And that's on my bare minimum days. And then you build up from there. So we have to rethink infrastructure. And this is where we bring the conversation home for organizations, especially Caribbean businesses, navigating modern marketing demands, because it's not just a content issue. It's a business infrastructure issue. The old model, outsource everything. Historically, most Caribbean businesses outsource marketing to agencies. They hire photographers and videographers for campaigns. They rely on influencers for reach. They avoid hiring internal marketing teams. But here's the problem. 69% of marketers say traditional content production models are no longer sustainable. The old model doesn't scale, not for today's attention economy. And the creatives, they are tired and burnt out too. So we are in this tug of war right now in the Caribbean, right? We're in this tug of war. And what makes it worse is a lot of the businesses are legacy businesses, so they're still making money. So they're still not even motivated to fix the problems, right? And we're in this tug of war. Creatives want to be paid for high quality work, as they should be. But businesses need daily content to stay visible, but can't afford high volume outsourcing. Agencies are stretched way too thin. They're producing templated, generic content just to stay on schedule, but it doesn't convert. And influencer campaigns might go viral, but they often don't drive any real meaningful return on the investment. Meanwhile, only 30% of marketers say they are even effectively measuring content performance. And that's according to SEMrush. That's according to SEMrush and their state of marketing report. 30% of marketers say they are not effectively measuring only 30% of marketers say they're effectively measuring content performance. That's crazy. That means that most companies are spending but not tracking and definitely not scaling. So what is the missing link? Here's what companies need to start doing. You have to start building your internal marketing infrastructure and stop relying only on agencies and freelancers. You need to create an internal content team because people who understand the business and are embedded in its daily operations is your staff, right? And you can speak to everything that needs to be spoken to. Then you need to invest in tools that reduce the friction. So you need to have the softwares like CapCut, Canva, AI transcribers, podcast applications. The same stack I use as a solopreneur can empower many of your small teams. You also need to update HR policies and job roles because marketing today requires collaboration across departments. People in finance, customer service, logistics, they all have stories and insights. But the only way you're going to be able to now go to your internal staff, your employees, and get them on camera is, one, are they trained up for that? Two, do they want to be on it? And you need to start hiring people with the intention, letting people know like, hey, are you okay with being on camera? Because if the marketing has to come from the internal teams now, and your internal teams do not want to be on camera, then you're going to have some problems. So you need to start looking at how are we going to hire talent that it's going to be willing to be public facing. Like that has to be a requirement now, because if no one on your team is willing to go on camera, if they're not willing to write or speak, then you need to rethink your hiring criteria. Because again, the best marketing to drive your business, you're not marketing for likes. The best marketing to drive your business is going to come from you, from your internal teams. So you're going to need to start hiring people that are okay with creating content and being a part of the process. This is the new way of business, folks. And that's because we, the public, the audience, this is what we demand. This is what we want. This is what we're demanding. And then not everybody has to be on camera, because I know that's going to, get some people nervous. Not everybody has to be on camera, because let's be real, not everyone will be a content creator, and that's okay. But if you can't get your team on video, then what you need to be doing is you need to extract their knowledge through interviews and voice notes. Then you need to turn it into articles or podcasts or carousels. And then again, you could use a wide variety of AI tools to edit, to script, and then repurpose. And this allows your subject matter experts to contribute without forcing them into uncomfortable roles. So let's break the myth. Content for TikTok and Instagram, right? Content today, you have to create more content than just what's on Instagram or TikTok or on LinkedIn, right? Content today has to show up in search engines. It has to show up in AI search. So again, we're using ChatGPT, Claude, Grok. All these things are connected to the internet. They're also trained up on the data from the internet. You have to start showing up in the AI tools. You have to start showing up in the customer research flows. They use YouTube, they read reviews. You have to figure out all the ways that customers do research and then show up with content there. You need to have content. You need to have an email newsletter. You should be having a business WhatsApp and building out your broadcast network. You should have a podcast that talks about industry insights or whatever related to your space it is. You should have a YouTube channel because YouTube's the second largest search engine and people want video content, right? And then that video content, it also gets shared throughout the AI tools as well. So that means that internal business knowledge must be turned into searchable and scalable assets and not just viral moments. People don't want content. They want answers to problems or helping or have help in achieving their desires. And those answers live inside your team and not on a trend chasing TikTok video. So that strategic mindset shift, your team isn't just staff anymore. Your team is now content engines. Your marketing isn't just ads anymore. It's education, it's visibility, and it's trust. Your creatives aren't your only option. They are one of the many tools in the entire ecosystem. This is the shift. And this is what creates content that scales. And once you've built that internal foundation, now you're ready for what's next. A whole new economic model for content, right? A whole new. So we've talked about the chaos. Now let's talk about what the new order looks like. And this is about rewriting the rules of content creation so it finally makes sense. Economically, strategically, and creatively. This isn't just about posting content anymore. It's about creating a system that allows you to create consistently, to create across multiple formats, and do it all without burning out or breaking the bank. And it starts with the reframe. You don't need a massive team or $1 million budget. You need smart systems, the right tools, and a clear content philosophy. So let's walk through what that looks like. It's going to start with self-awareness, right? And this is something that we don't speak about enough within marketing. Creating content starts with self-awareness. Most people fail at content because they try to do too much too soon. But if you start with just one format that's natural to you, could be video, could be writing, or could be audio, then you win. And from there, you build your workflow around how you naturally communicate. And keep in mind my rule. If life is lifing, then find, what could be your bare minimum non-negotiable that you're going to get out there, regardless of what's happening, because you have to build consistency. For me, it's a text post, right? Because I don't got to be on video. I don't got to turn on the mic. I can just get a text post out. That's my bare minimum. You need to come up with your own bare minimum. And your bare minimum over time is going to start moving the needle. And that's where you really want to be. When your bare minimum content can start to drive leads and drive sales or open up opportunities, that's where you want to be, right? You need to build content around people's learning styles. So remember, people consume content in 3 ways: written content, blogs, text posts, whatever, audio, podcasts, audiograms, visual, videos, reels, YouTube, infographics, right? Creating content across all 3 isn't just a good practice, but it's going to be how you scale without reinventing the wheel. You record once, and now it becomes a podcast, a blog, a clip, a carousel, a newsletter, a thread, a push notification, whatever you need. If I'm shooting a video, I'm thinking about how that can become 5 to 6 pieces bare minimum before I even hit record. And depending on the length of the video, then I know how many pieces of content I'm going to be able to get, right? Use tools to multiply output without multiplying the cost, because the old model, hire a videographer, a photographer, an editor for one campaign. The new model is leveraging tools that give you output at scale. You need to lean into your tax stack, right? Tax stack. You need to lean into your tech stack. And you got to do all of it. And if I could do that on a solopreneur budget, and most of the tools are under $20 a month, that's where you start, right? Here's an interesting stat from the Content Marketing Institute. 91% of marketers say they're under pressure to do more with less, which is why 83% are investing in AI tools and automation to meet the demand. I'm just highlighting that again, right? You also need to be your own content team until it's time to expand. So I am proof that you can create content daily across platforms without an agency or staff. And here's why it works. Because I learned how to scale smart. I learned how to scale, without burning myself out. I'm always refining my workflows, looking for the right software, looking for the right hardware to scale my content. And I just don't chase trends. I just focus on documenting my content. I focus on distributing my content, and whatever content I produce, I focus on depth. I create daily because I know my minimum, and I create in all formats because I understand learning, and I scale by documenting, and I don't need to come on online and perform, right? Because that gets really tiring. You also need to know when to bring in the pros because, again, not everything needs to be a DIY. When it's time to launch a new product, a new brand, or a major campaign, this is where you want to bring in the professionals, right? You don't need them for daily content. You need them when you need to make something that you can, and you need to make something that really stands out, right? That's when you want to bring in the professionals. And you need to shift the business model because this is not just marketing anymore. The reality is, most Caribbean businesses are not built to support this type of content model. That's why we got to change. They're still structured like it's the 90s with one marketing person doing a million different things, or they're outsourcing everything to agencies or the influencers. And again, there's no measurable ROI, but they do see the money going out. So that means you got to start training your teams. You got to start updating job descriptions. You got to start investing in the internal infrastructure. You got to start empowering experts to become creators within your business. And you got to start to measure real ROI beyond the social media content. This is from Adobe Digital Trends. 69% of marketers say traditional production models are no longer sustainable because they are too slow, too expensive, and too disconnected from the business outcomes. And then we need to rethink what success looks like. Content success isn't about going viral anymore. It's about showing up where it matters in the ways that compound over time. You need to be found in AI search. You need to be found in the search engines. You need to dominate with content with depth. You need to build around thought leadership through the content that has that depth. You need to drive sales through your evergreen content. You need to own your niche through consistent quality content. Because the future of content isn't getting louder, it's about getting smarter. There's a lot of noise, right? You need to learn how to create content that works for you, and you'll never be at the mercy of an algorithm or a freelancer or an agency or a trend ever again, right? So I hope, I mean, we, this is probably one of the longer episodes, but we really dove deep into this topic, right? And I hope you understand that the old playbook for marketing your business, that is falling apart. It's crumbling. It's pretty much, it's on its way out. It's on its last legs. The days of paying TV production prices for everyday social media content, done, it's not sustainable. And companies are cutting back on budget. So again, they're not doing it either. Hoping a single viral post will carry your brand, again, that's not a plan. Outsourcing all of your marketing without understanding what actually drive results, not a strategy. And believing your business can thrive without showing up online with clarity, consistency, and purpose, well, that's just dangerous delusion. Because right now we're living through the biggest shift in how content is made, how it's consumed, and how it's discovered. AI search, personalized feeds, people are being more intentional with what they give their attention to, right? And then there's global competition. You're not just competing with your competitors for attention. You're competing with the world, right? And if you're still trying to grow your business with these 2010 tactics in the 2025 world, you're not just falling behind, you are downright invisible. But here's the good news. You don't need the big team. You don't need a massive budget. You just need the right strategy, and then you have to execute. And I'll end off by saying this is exactly why I built out my new visibility starter pack service. It is not fluff, it is not hype, it is a done for you roadmap designed for Caribbean businesses that are ready to understand what their customers are actually searching for online in the search engines, how to show up with content that solves the problems beyond just chasing trends, and build digital visibility that's rooted in relevance and not guesswork because we are pulling all the data. We're doing the data research for you. So this is not about, becoming a content creator. It is about being a business that shows up in the places that all of your customers now search and now use to do their own research to build that trust. Because if people cannot find you in Google, if you're not showing up in the AI tools, if your website doesn't have the answers your customers are asking, you're not just missing out on traffic, you're missing out on sales, you're missing out on trust and on opportunity. And this is where my Visibility Starter Pack service helps you fix that. You'll walk away with a custom 1-month content plan based on search data from your specific region. And then you're also going to have my expertise giving you clear next steps in how to take this data and turn it into content. So if you're tired of guessing, if you feel stuck and you're ready to move from confusion to clarity, I'm going to be linking to my Visibility Starter Pack. It's going to be in the show notes. You can go and check that out. So let's shift the narrative, not just for your business, but for the region, because we don't need more content. We need content that connects. We need content that converts. We need content that puts Caribbean excellence on the global map. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It starts with visibility. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, right? We're trying things out, right? Oh my God, one of my longer episodes. We're trying things out, right? We're trying things out. So we dove in deep on this topic. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to rate the podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, rate the podcast. If you really enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to drop a review. I read the reviews. Drop a review on Spotify, drop a review on Apple Podcasts, or leave a comment on YouTube. Ask your questions, keep the conversation going. We really have to solve this problem, right? If you want to learn more about building your digital presence and monetizing your platforms, check out KaronRose.com. If you want to stay up to date with the podcast, check out digipreneur.fm. That is it from me today, folks. Happy Monday. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care.
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Karan Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Karan Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.